So we developed Reach to have a program in the state that would incentivize, reward, and celebrate all the early care and education programs around the state that have been doing so much great work over the years to meet healthy habits best practices. And by making this a public recognition, our hope is really to get the word out there, both to our peers, our peer TAs and ECE programs, as well as families, our communities, and our community and state leaders to really show what health-related quality looks like and the important role that ECE programs play in helping children develop healthy habits. So along the way, we're hoping that this work can inform and look for opportunities for supporting this healthy habits quality improvement work in our state systems. So that's another thing that's sort of going in tandem with this project. And so what do we mean by a recognition program? So we basically mean like all these ways to help ECE programs just show off all this great work that they've been doing and the success that they've had. So recognize programs through Reach, get a yard sign, get certificates, graphics, and verbiage for newsletters and electronic communications. We also have a website where we have profiles of all of our recognized programs where they just share a little bit more of the background to why this work is important to them and who has helped them along the way. Again, so that we can show what this looks like and also help to inspire others to take it on. So I'm going to be really talking through in detail the application process throughout the session today, but I just wanted to start with a broad overview so we can all get our bearings. So the first step is to verify eligibility, and then you go on to sort of just get all your documentation in order and then actually do the online application. So the eligibility process is that a program must serve 0 to 5-year-olds and be licensed and located in North Carolina, and also to have on record in the Go Knapsack system a self-assessment from the past 12 months that shows that they're in the leading the way score category. So the recognition itself is module by module, and there are recognitions available in 6 of the 7 modules of Go Knapsack. So the one module that we don't offer a recognition in is the breastfeeding and infant feeding module, because we already have a breastfeeding designation in the state. So we're just looking for a self-assessment in the actual module that the program is interested in being recognized in. And then from there, we go on to gather documentation of meeting some of the key best practices that we've pulled out of the self-assessment of that module. And then it's the online application process. And after a program applies, we review that application, and so you may hear back from us within a couple of weeks with questions to clarify something on the application if we couldn't quite understand, or you may just hear back that the recognition has been awarded. The recognition is good for 2 years, and then to be recognized for another 2 years, you just go through the same application process. And we've had a couple pilots, really small pilots to date, just to sort of test some of the stuff out. And we did have some folks actually reapply and get recognized again from our first pilot to our second pilot. Oops. So any questions about any of that? And again, you can, we don't have a lot of people, so you're welcome to bring your mic up, or you can comment in the chat. Okay, I'm going to continue. If anything pops up, of course, you can always put it in the chat. But we're going to just review really quickly this eligibility process. So I sort of already mentioned the basics that we serve 0 to 5-year-olds or somewhere in that range. And we're licensed and located in North Carolina. And then this score on the self-assessment piece, if you received an email from me or an email from a TA that says that you're already eligible, you don't need to worry about this. So I checked all the scores for the past year in all the modules and sent those emails out. You're good to go. But if you have a program or if you are a program and you think you're eligible, but you just haven't taken a Go Knapsack self-assessment in a while, you can go ahead and do that. And the way that you check this eligibility is, again, you choose the module that you want to get recognized in, that you want to take a self-assessment in. So you're going to choose the tab, the icon and the tab that sort of fits what you're trying to do. And then you take your self-assessment. At the end of the self-assessment, there is this little bar graph that shows where your score lands. And so this third piece of the bar graph all the way over to the right is the leading the way category. So that's what we're looking for, is a score that falls in this range. You can also see this on the My Knapsack dashboard. So again, whether you're a TA consultant or you have an account for your own facility or program, that My Knapsack dashboard is going to show sort of all the scores and also the date. So you can make sure that it's, again, within the last year to 14 months, and then it's in that leading the way score range. All right, any questions about that? Hopefully this is the easiest part, and hopefully everybody already knows the eligibility stuff, but if not, again, hopefully that helps to clear it up. Okay, I'm going to go on to the documentation. So this next step is to just gather the documentation that basically you will upload into the online application. And the documentation is all relates back to this handful of key best practices that we worked with partners to pull out of the Go Knapsack self-assessments. So these are best practices that we know can influence children's health or healthy habits, that are sort of that show quality in the program and complement or align with other systems and standards in the state, and that also are hopefully feasible for the programs in our state. So before I go forward anymore, just know that everything I'm about to say is also on our website. So if you go to the homepage and go under Get Recognized, you can just select the recognition that you're looking for. And then from there, each recognition page is going to link you to each of the documentation pages that just tell you exactly what we're looking for, and then give you other tips, reminders, and when possible, we have examples in there. We're going to keep filling in the examples. And again, we provide a lot of information, and it's just so that you hopefully have all of your questions answered and all the information that you need in a format that works for you to put in a successful application. So again, we're just providing in lots of different formats, and hopefully one of those really fits with how your brain works. So the other thing that we provide on each of these recognition pages is a checklist that again goes through a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. And again, just another way to help you have an easy and successful application process. So again, the documentation all relates back to specific Go Knapsack best practices that our partners thought were really key to each of these areas. So for each recognition, we asked for about 4 pieces of documentation. And again, these are uploaded in the online application. But we have this step here of gathering documentation just so that, you know, you're ready when you go in to do that application, you have everything that you need. So we're going to start by talking about the physical activity documentation that we asked for the physical activity recognition. So we asked for documentation in, again, these 4 areas. And the first is time provided for physical activity. And I'm going to actually give an example of a schedule a little bit later on. So I'll go through some of the specifics and details there too. But what we're looking for our schedules. And again, these are it's going to be different for every program depending on the age groups that they serve. So if it's a facility or program that serves 3 and 4-year-olds, then we're going to ask for one schedule from one preschool aged classroom that shows 120 minutes total for physical activity each day. So that's indoor and outdoor. And then same thing, if there are toddlers and 2s, then we're going to ask for one schedule from one of those age level classrooms that shows the 90-minute level best practice. And then again, if it's a family childcare home or mixed age, then looking for, again, that 90-minute level for total physical activity indoors and outdoors on the schedule. And physical activity can happen lots of different times during the day, and those might not all be perfectly documented on the schedule the way that it's written or typed or printed. So for a lot of the different documentation that we ask for in the application, we have a notes section. So you are welcome to handwrite notes on the schedule before you take a picture of it or scan it. You're welcome to put notes in the notes section. Whatever is going to help you demonstrate and show that you're meeting that best practice level of physical activity. And know that, you know, it counts if it's music and movement. It counts if it's, you know, active transitions. It counts if it's dancing during circle time. So, you know, just write that on there or note that on there so that reviewers can see it. Because if we can't see it and we can't count up those minutes, then we're going to come back with questions about that. So, you know, you don't need to use the notes section, but if you think there's any question or if you just want to make sure that we know all the active times of your day, just, you know, make sure that's in there in some way. So the next piece of documentation that we ask for physical activity are photos of the indoor portable play equipment. And this one, again, I'm going to go into more detail in a sec. So for now, I'm just going to sort of skim over that one. But that's the second piece of documentation that we're looking for. And then the next 2 relate to gross motor development and policy. So the gross motor development documentation, again, is going to depend on the age groups that are served by the facility or the program. So again, if there are older children, we're going to be looking for a video or photo, and a written description of a teacher's favorite movement, activity, or game to encourage motor skill development. So along with that description, we're looking for just, you know, what is the gross motor skill, and we're looking for a little statement on why this is a great activity, or, you know, why it has worked for this classroom. And so part of that goes with, for some of these pieces of documentation, in this recognition and in some of the others, we also give the opportunity or the option to give the teacher's name, so that we can do this a little bit more recognition down to the teacher level. So we can celebrate and recognize this teacher themselves, because we know that a lot of these best practices really depend on the buy-in and the enthusiasm and the skill of at the classroom level. So this is the kind of thing where these examples can help us both recognize those teachers and also inspire others to try some new activities and get a little bit deeper into this work. So again, the gross motor development documentation is age related. So there's also a section if there are infants in the program for a way that teachers encourage tummy time. And with all photos, actually with all of the documentation, we have the option for the program to give permission for these things to be shared or not. And again, we share these examples, these photos, in order to show again what successful applications look like, and again what this inspiration, these great examples and activities that are going on around the state. The last piece of documentation that we ask for in physical activity is written policy. So the main things that we're looking for there are seeing that that best practice level of physical activity is reflected. And again, this is going to depend on the age groups that are served by the program. So if they don't serve infants, we don't expect them to say that tummy time is offered 4 times per day or more. But if they do, then we're going to be looking for that. So it's really showing that commitment to physical activity and the importance of physical activity, and then also showing the important role that teachers play in encouraging physical activity. So we're not looking for specific words for that one, just that spirit is reflected in there. And again, for these policy examples, we're going to be looking to see that all of the applicable topics are covered. All right, so as I said, I'm sort of circling back to that indoor portable play equipment documentation piece. So we are looking for photos that show all five of these types of portable play equipment indoors. So again, that means that outdoor portable play equipment we're not looking for those photos. Those photos aren't going to count for this. This is all about having the stuff that you need inside to get children active, either during indoor physical activity time or when there's inclement weather. And so, as I said before, these photos are for review only unless the facility gives permission to share. And that we'll be looking for all 5 of these types of equipment. And that same idea of writing notes, we have a note section here in case it's not clear, that all 5 of those are in there. So if you think there's any question, just write a couple of notes in the notes section so that we interpret the photos correctly. This again relates to a preschool aged classroom. And we have a limit on the photos mainly because there's only so much storage space we have available. And so we can't take all the photos of all of the amazing equipment, but if it's just 2 photos that show the five pieces of equipment, that's fine. But just know that we can't take more than 5, or you can take a video that sort of does a panorama. That's fine. We can't take more than 1 video though, because again, those file sizes are big. So we're gonna switch our brains a little bit here, and you're gonna put on the reviewer hat. So if you are a reviewer and you saw this photo come through your for an application for the indoor play equipment. Which of the 5 types of equipment do you think are represented in this photo? So you can actually just think about it, sort of look, count it up, and then we'll see what we find. Okay, so for this photo, we see some jumping opportunities, and again, we can note this in the notes section that these like mini hoops are for doing a hopscotch as part of this obstacle course. There's a balance beam that's pretty obvious. There is a tunnel and a mat, so that is definitely that crawling or tumbling equipment. So the couple pieces that we don't see that we would need in another photo or two are the twirling, so the ribbons, scarves, that kind of thing, and the throwing, catching, or striking. So you'll see that there are some bins back here in the corner, and they may well have beanbags in them, but I am not sure, so I can't interpret that. So I would either need notes about that, or I would need another photo that shows those things in action. All right, any questions about physical activity documentation that we're looking for? And again, you can bring your mic up or you can chat in. Okay, I'm going to keep going then. So we're going to move on to the outdoor play and learning documentation, and the types of documentation we ask for are the sort of structure of this one are very similar to physical activity. So again, we ask for schedules from the applicable age classrooms that show, this time it's just outdoor time. For physical activity, again, it's total indoor, outdoor, whenever they're physically active. But for outdoor play and learning, I'm just wanting to see that outdoor time on the schedule. And I will be, again, going into an example schedule. So I'm going to save my more detailed talking about this for in a couple minutes. The second piece of documentation that we ask for are photos of the outdoor learning environment that show 8 or more outdoor play and learning settings. So settings are, can be permanent, they can be temporary, they can be for more physically active play or for quieter play. So some examples are pathway, sand play area, climbing structure, little houses, stages, the lawn, easel, musical instruments. There's so many, activity settings that can happen outdoors. So in these 8 or more that we're looking for, we do ask that one of the 8 be a garden or other naturalized setting. And then the other thing that we're going to be looking for is shade. And we're just looking that at least one of these settings is shaded. So shade itself isn't a setting, but we're just looking for one of the settings to be shaded because we know that shade just makes these spaces more usable year-round. So our last two pieces of documentation for outdoor play and learning are for actually, how we use that outdoor space, and then the written policy again. For the OLE utilization one, again, just naming and describing a favorite outdoor activity that uses the outdoor learning environment to support learning objectives in one or more of the foundations domains. And whenever you see sort of name and describe, that means there's going to be a text box in the application, and you're just going to type in a little description. And again, with these descriptions, these are those opportunities to share, to inspire, if you want these things to be shared. And again, if we want to also recognize individual teachers for their efforts in these areas, or even if we're not sharing, we're providing enough detail in these descriptions that reviewers can sort of have an idea of what went down for the activity. So along with the description for this one, we have a drop-down box of what the foundations domains are. So you're just going to click whatever domain was supported, and then there's that same sentence of "this is a great activity because," and again, so that we can include this in our recognition stuff, especially in social media, to be inspiring others with your great work. So the last piece of documentation is policy. And again, just looking for written policy that's again showing that the outdoor time for whatever ages are served, so that we have that specific amount of outdoor time is reflected in the policy. And then again, a little speaking to the importance of outdoor play and learning here. So that, again, we're not saying how you need to say that, just something about why the facility values outdoor play and learning. And I'm going to actually go into a policy example in a little bit, so I'll give a little bit more detail on some of this policy stuff then too. So as we look at that schedule documentation, again, for outdoor play and learning, same as physical activity, there we'll ask what age classrooms there are in the program, and based on that, whichever ages are served, we're going to ask for one piece of documentation for each of those age groups. So it'd be one schedule for any classrooms that serve 3 or 4-year-olds, and same for toddler, or again, mixed age or family childcare home. And we only need one weekly schedule for each of those age groups. And just as with other things, if there's anything unclear about how the schedule was printed, that would make it hard for reviewers to be able to count up the number of minutes outside each day, you can just use the notes section, or you can again handwrite on the schedule before you take a picture of it or scan it in. And with all of the documentation, we ask that it be current or from the past 12 months. So this is an example of schedule that we got, and you can just see this one is pretty easy to interpret for outdoor. And what we would just need to see is, that we have a schedule that meets the best practice for each of the age levels served by the program. And then this schedule had a date on it, so it was easy to tell that it was from the past 12 months. This schedule actually also meets the physical activity best practice. So if you see that your documentation is sort of doing double duty like that, which it might be for, the policy and these schedules, that might make it easy for you to apply for, 2 recognitions, just putting it out there. So if it's of interest. And again, like if you've already done the work to pull these things out, then, just save them and you can put them in another recognition as well. All right, questions about the outdoor play and learning documentation that we're looking for. And again, you can unmute yourself or you can chat. Okay, let's review screen time. So, um, again, pretty similar format of the other recognitions that we've looked at today. We do ask for a schedule again. But again, this is a little bit different. The program, we know some programs don't have screen time available at all for some for young children. So there is a question of like, is screen time available at all for young children? So if the answer is no, then actually a couple of these pieces of documentation are not required. So this could actually be a real quick one for those facilities that don't have any screen time. And when we talk about screen time, we're really talking about, you know, watching shows or videos or playing games on some kind of screen device. So we're not talking about using screen devices for story time or for, you know, as we've seen a lot in the pandemic, interactive instruction, that's all via Zoom. So that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. So if screen time is provided at all, then we ask for a schedule. And again, we know that for screen time, especially, it may not totally be clear on the schedule. So that's again where making notes or on the schedule itself or using the notes section of the application can come in handy just to let us know when it's happening. So the second piece of documentation also is we only ask for this if there is screen time. So again, this is another one that is not required if there's no screen time available, you know, offered at the facility. And it's really about sort of the best practice way to do screen time. So we asked for a written description of how one teacher uses screen media in the classroom to expand on classroom themes or children's interests. So along with the, so to sort of outline that description, we asked for the name of whatever they were using or watching, and then how the teacher engaged with children about what they were seeing or doing with the screen media, how it relates to the classroom themes or children's interests. And again, there's a drop down to mark which of the foundation's domains were supported by the activity. And again, whenever we're asking for this written description, it's all text boxes that you can just type your description in. The other two pieces of documentation that we asked for, these are going to be, even if the program doesn't offer screen time, these would be in there. So the family engagement documentation that we asked for is one resource that the facility has shared with families about screen time. And again, we're looking for fact-based information here. It could be electronic, it could be in their newsletter, it could be a flyer, but just looking that we're sharing fact-based information that's sort of supporting and reinforcing what folks are doing within the facility. And then just a description of, you know, sort of how it's shared that is building the bridge between these best practices and family interests and values and concerns. And then the last piece is again written policy, and I'm going to go into more detail here. So again, with all these policy pieces, we're looking for each of the topics that's applicable to the specific facility to be in that policy, and we're going to be looking for them. And if we don't see them, then we're going to come back with questions. So again, we're looking for that time provided or that statement that it is not there, that screen time is not available. We're looking for that no matter you know, whether it's offered or not. And then these two other topics are more if applicable. So if screen time is offered or when it's offered, that it's always educational, developmentally appropriate, and that teachers engage with children about what they're seeing and learning. And then the other piece is teachers and staff limit their own personal screen time to time away from children. So that's more that role modeling piece. And again, if these are in different handbooks or in different places, we can take up to 2 files. You can upload up to 2 files. And just like everything else, we're just looking for this to be from the past 12 months. And that, again, we're seeing the best practices covered. And we know that a lot of programs are doing all this stuff, but it may not be in writing yet. So just know that, in the Go Knapsack Tips and Materials library, if you go in any module and in the policy section of the library, you'll see, Word documents with policies that can be edited that, can help just beef up an existing policy or help when crafting a new policy, and that all these policy examples are going to help meet this requirement. And you'll see that this one is checking all those boxes. All right, questions about screen time? All right. So we're just going to briefly review what's actually in the online application. And again, our main real main thing of the online application is to give you a place to upload this documentation that we just reviewed. So again, when you go to the website and you click on Get Recognized, you're going to click on the actual recognition that you're looking for. And again, that page is going to have all the information you need about the documentation, about how to apply. It's also going to have an example, a PDF of the online application that, again, if you might want to take a look at that before you do the online application, just to make sure you have all of the information that you're going to need. But it is really only for review and preparation. It's not to actually use to apply. And then on this page, you'll also see the link to the actual online application on this page as well. So when you click on that link, you'll see a place to log in. And I think this can be a little confusing, but the reason for login is so that you can save your progress, so that if you get called away from your application, or you have to come back to it another time, you can save it, and then you can log back in at another time to complete it. So you'll see, and this is you'll see a place to put in a username and password to create your account to actually fill out the application. And then when you come back, you'll come back to the same link. So you can, just click the same place on the website, and it'll give you the same box where you'll just put in the username and password that you created. And then it allows you, if it's for some reason is showing you the wrong one, there's a little button at the bottom there that just lets you switch between creating a password, creating a username and password for the first time, or coming back. So the first 3 pages of questions are really just getting information about whoever is applying and about the facility that is seeking recognition. So either a representative from a ECE program or a TA consultant can complete an application, which is why there's a couple different pages here. So the first one is just a few questions about basic contact information. And this is really about the person who is like typing the stuff in, putting the stuff into the application, so that we know who to come back to if we have any questions about the application, about what was submitted in the application. So that's the first few questions that you see. And then the next section is really about the program that's seeking recognition, so that we have the accurate information about the program. Some of this might go on their web profile, again, with the right contact information for a family member, you know, a family that might be looking for care, the correct contact information for them to use, or, you know, their web address, those kinds of things. And then when a TA partner is the one actually submitting the application, they'll have a page of questions specific to their role and organization. So if you're submitting this and you're from an ECE program and you're not working with a TA consultant on the application, you won't see this TA consultant information page. That's only something that a TA sees when they are submitting the application. And I'll just make a quick note that the buttons at the bottom, these are the buttons you're going to see at the bottom of every page of questions. So if you're in the middle of a page and you haven't finished the page yet, but you get called away, you can click the Save Progress, and that is just going to save you wherever you are. When you click the next button, that's both going to save that page, and it's going to get you to the next page. So just FYI, that's what happens with those buttons. The next page, again, just a couple of questions to make sure we're all good to go with eligibility and permission. And again, if you received an email from me about your eligibility for one of the recognitions, you're good to go. Don't worry about it. But if you ever have a question about that, you can always contact me, or again, you know, go through that process I showed in the beginning for how to check. And then, so this is the real meat of the application, is when you're uploading the documentation. So as I said before, for a lot of the recognitions that we talked about today, it's sort of dependent on the age groups served by the program. And so you select that first, and then that will determine what documentation we ask for. And then you just click, you know, choose files to find the file that you want to upload as documentation. And then again, the notes sections are interspersed in there, that you can, if you need to give us any notes, you can type them in there. They're not required. They're just there in case you need them. And then at the end of the page where you're uploading documentation, this is where the permission comes in that I talked about before. So it is absolutely not required. You do not have to give us permission to share anything. But if you want to, again, the reason and the way we're going to be sharing is to share these successful examples, both as a way to show how to do the application and to inspire others as we, you know, start to raise awareness about all this great work. And then the last couple pages of the application are not required. So the next one after you put in your documentation is just for the information that the facility wants to be displayed on their profile on the website if they are recognized. So we can list community partners that helped. We sort of like a statement that you know, really personalizes the how and why of the work, and then we can also add a photo. So all of that we collect on this page, and then the last page is really feedback for us. And again, it's not required, but just know that we take it seriously, and we have made changes to the applications in our pilots to date based on this feedback. because again, we want this to be valuable. We also want it to be feasible, and we want to provide all the support that we can that'll help people put in successful applications. All right, any questions about the online application? And again, you can unmute or you can use the chat. Okay, I'm going to go on to next steps, and then, any other suggestions or comments or questions that come up, we can finish out at the end because we have a few minutes here. But next steps are really either to keep spreading the word in your community if you're a TA and you're still sort of in the information gathering stage, but you have eligible programs. Or, you can keep, just check through the website if you have questions about some of this documentation. Again, there's a lot of detail that's included there. We have a first application deadline for 2023 of February 15th. And again, here we're hoping that those programs that are currently eligible, we're hoping to get a bunch of folks recognized so that we can really start building momentum. Again, this is the first time we have physical activity, outdoor play and learning, and screen time available as recognitions. And we know there's been so much great work in the state over the past several years in these areas. And we'd love to, start getting the word out there and celebrating all this great work. So that's what our this first round is about. We'll have another round of applications due in June. Again, for folks who just couldn't do it this time, or we're sort of waiting to see, or are still working on it and are meeting these best practices by that point. So the other thing I wanted to mention is we do have some print versions of some of these resources that are pictured here below. So if having print stuff to share with programs, either to help them along the way or as part of recognizing them, if any of that would be helpful, just get in touch with us and we'll get you those resources. And in general, we are really interested in learning from TAs about how you're incorporating this into your work, what's working, what's not, and also from anyone, any local recognition opportunities that you see that we can help support or hook into. Again, we're just looking to add value and celebrate and recognize folks in whatever ways make sense and ways that are valuable. But we don't know about everything, so let us know if there's something that you think makes sense or who you'd like us to partner with, and we will try to do it. So you can reach out to me via email, or you can tell me right now because we have a few moments. If you have any last questions or suggestions or anything that you want to share.
Will we get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm going to send this the recognition. I can send the recording out, but if it's more helpful to actually just have the like PDF of the slides, I can do that too.
Yeah, I would like the slides as well.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks. Any other requests or questions? All right, well, if that is looking good, we will end there. And thank you all for being on today and being interested. And again, we hope we can make this a easy and valuable program for you. And stay warm, everybody, and happy winter and happy new year and all that too. Thanks again.